2023 has been a great year for gamers. We got solid drops like Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Street Fighter 6, Diablo 4, and Final Fantasy 16, just to name a few. Unfortunately though, there's only so much time that an old man like myself has to play these fucking things. So being a big Street Fighter fan, I just had to choose SF6 as the first one to get. And by the time this video drops, who knows what else we might have available. Now, being that I'm a lifelong Street Fighter enthusiast, having played the bulk of the games in the franchise, I'm gonna give you guys my personal take on this new entry. And trust me, you're gonna wanna hear my thoughts, as I have likely been playing Street Fighter longer than you've been alive. Isn't that a sad thought? So let's dive deep. And if you guys like the video, hit the subscribe button with the bell, turn that shit on, hit the like button, and let's drive this video right up YouTube's bitch ass. Let's do it. It's been 7 long years since the release of Street Fighter V, and personally, I enjoy that one quite a lot. I was late to the game and didn't pick it up until about a year ago, but it really won me over with its colorful and sharp appearance and deep gameplay mechanics. All of the main characters that I like to use, Ken Masters, Cammy, and Chun-Li, have some of the sickest and cleanest moves I've seen in the series. Now, for whatever reason, I have never been a big fan of Street Fighter 4. And if you ask me why, I really wouldn't be able to give you an acceptable answer. The combat system the game is built upon never quite clicked with me, and I wasn't incredibly fond of how it looked. I never got particularly good at it either. It just didn't speak to me the way previous games have, such as Street Fighter Alpha, one of my favorites. Now, a good friend of mine and longtime rival, who lives and breathes Street Fighter, has made it quite clear that he hates Street Fighter V for a variety of reasons. And he is certainly not alone in his distaste. There is a general consensus among players that the game has a slower pace than 4, which can make all the difference to a fighting game fanatic between playing the shit out of it or throwing it in the trash. Whether or not you liked the last 2 games, or one over the other, my gut feeling is that the majority of Street Fighter heads will probably like 6. IGN gave the game a mostly stellar review and makes videos like mine virtually unnecessary. In fact, my original title for this video was going to be the Street Fighter 6 review you don't need. But I'm getting off track here. To keep this video simple and quick to write, I'm just going to run down the pros and cons of the game as I see them. Let's start with the pros, of course. I can only speak for myself, but I feel that the speed, pacing, and flow of the fighting mechanics is right on target. Street Fighter 6 gives us a fresh new combat foundation and is based around what they are calling the drive gauge system, that Capcom claims allows for more player creativity. This system incorporates the already established mechanics of parry, focus, and EX moves, while retaining the 3-level super arts that have become so iconic with the series. I could go way deeper here, but in general, moves just feel as if they connect better visually, and have been made easier to perform, such as Chun-Li's 100 lightning kicks and 10 show kicks. Yes, SF5 made these moves easier to activate, like E Honda's 1000-hand slap, but I think this new game took things even a bit further. A good example of this is tapping down kick to activate Chun-Li's 10 show kicks, a sick move that couldn't have been made easier to do and is a pleasure to perform. I always hated having to pound on the buttons to perform specials, and these newer games make those archaic control inputs a thing of the past. They have also revamped the system, enough to where it levels the playing field for players like myself against people who may have put in thousands of hours in Street Fighter 4, like someone I know. In SF4, I didn't stand a chance against my greatest rival and couldn't even beat him one fucking time. But in SF6, we started our battles off a little differently, with me winning the first 3 matches.
Oh, Christ. Jesus Christ. What are you grunting at over there?
In your face, fool! I like the new system quite a lot. The fast generating supers, powerful drive gauge moves, and nasty combos make for some action-packed fights. But like all things, certain aspects of the game can be abused and taken advantage of to an annoying degree. And the faster your reflexes, the better off you'll be, like in most fighting games. Street Fighter VI probably has the deepest and most cohesive training guide of any fighting game ever made. And the ability to use a more simplistic modern control scheme, or the traditional classic style for veterans, allows both experienced and new players to enjoy it. SF6 has an expansive training mode that will take you through all a character's different movesets and abilities in a step-by-step tutorial. You can even see detailed information such as frame time measurements for the hardcore fighter who wants to learn every advantage in the game. Every fighting game should have this kind of guide to learn the nuances of how to play it. It gives you all the tools that you need to learn how to become a top-flight fighter. Practice makes perfect after all, so you should be spending lots of time here. SF6 has taken a more realistic approach this time around, with all the characters looking a bit more lifelike in their nature, with facial expressions that come across so very real. The flashy, vibrant colors delight the screen as you pull off drive gauge techniques and super arts. One of the coolest examples of this is Kimberly's level 3 super, where she unloads spray paint bottles that decorate the screen with an explosion of colors. It might just be the most beautiful attack I have seen in any fighting game, with luscious, detailed backgrounds that have depth and set the stage for intense battles. As you play through character story mode, you unlock tons of different artworks that I believe were specifically made just for SF6. There are tons of super cool images created by a variety of artists that are quite impressive to look at and will make for some great desktop backgrounds. And now for the soundtrack, which initially I wasn't all that impressed with. In fact, I had to go back and rewrite this part of the script because the more I examine the total scope of all the songs, the more I'm changing my mind here. There is a whopping total of 81 tracks for SF6
26.
with several standouts, and a few songs in particular that change in tempo depending on how much health you have. There is a great deal of variety to be found here, and I can honestly say that the soundtrack for Street Fighter is finally getting on par with the likes of Tekken. There are a few songs that I really do hate, which I'll go into in the cons section, but for the most part, the soundtrack is solid and gets you pumped for the intense action. It's honestly one of the best fighting game soundtracks of all time, for the depth it has achieved. The most noteworthy mention for this newest iteration of Street Fighter is the ability to create your own character. There are enough customization options available to make just about whatever your heart's desire. And as you progress, you gain access to purchasing more unique gear for your avatar, all while learning from the old school masters. Do you want Guile's Sonic Boom with the powerful throw moves of Zangief? Here in story mode, you can mix and match whatever you like, and even use this character in online matches. Explore Metro City and travel the world in your search for the answer, what is strength? During your travels, you face several trials and challenges and come across opportunities to prove yourself in street fights. Challenge anyone and take on silly enemies with boxes on their heads in an effort to clean up the streets. This edition is a bold move and gives us something different in a Street Fighter game. World Tour mode makes you the protagonist and is a unique approach to a fighting game that has never been done before. It is the cornerstone of SF6 and a fresh new addition that should have been implemented years ago. But once again, although it lands in the pros category for its ingenuity, it also falls into the cons section with some unfortunate drawbacks. Not much to go on about here, but this clever lobby system makes fighting people online simple and allows you to show off your creation to the whole world. I even met Mr. Miyagi one time, which was a lifelong dream. Who knows who you'll see there? Just walk up to an arcade cabinet and you can battle people from all around the world. While previous Street Fighter games have been a bit troublesome to figure out how to play against your friends, SF6 is a breeze. Just join one of the many lobbies available in your region, stand in the center of the room, and tell your friend where you're at. You can also watch matches and talk to everyone in the chat box while you wait. This is not the only way to do online matches, as there is a more direct approach available, but it is definitely my preferred way to do online in SF6. Capcom is going to make a fortune off of DLC content. It is blatantly apparent that they have held back the bulk of the roster to drain our wallets and take advantage of the established fanbase. Capcom has released the game with a grand total of 18 characters, 12 of them being fighters from the previous entries. You would think that this is a lot, but it just feels so small to me. The painful part of this greedy approach is that they can totally get away with it, because most fighting games don't start off with a huge selection in the base version at time of release. Capcom knows this and took full advantage of that fact. My personal feeling is that they are holding back classic characters to maximize profit for the game, and unfortunately, it's a smart move on their part. I find it so very interesting that all the new characters introduced are this wide diverse cast of different ethnicities in an attempt to appeal to an even broader audience, allowing them to capitalize on the other established ones for DLC content. And look, I am all for variety. I am all for diversity and new characters. I am glad they decided to introduce even more ethnicities in the roster, but Street Fighter has a massive character pool to draw from, and leaving out iconic ones such as M. Bison, Akuma, Balrog, Vega, Sagat, T-Hawk, and others that have always been base game characters is just surprising to me. It's like they went with the absolute bare minimum for an established character selection. The roster just feels so small compared to the previous games like SF5 that have a shit ton of options now. Yes, I am aware that those games slowly delved out the characters, but at this point it would be nice if a launch game came with a deeper roster at time of release. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are enjoying the new characters, and I am certainly seeing that when playing online. But aside from one or two of them, I'm not too thrilled with these new additions. Capcom is holding on to all of the familiar characters to siphon our wallets, and while I don't agree with it or like it one bit, I guess it was a smart move on their part because it's totally gonna work. Every fighting game needs to have a menacing boss character, and SF6 has fucking JP. This is the big bad boss in the game? I'm sorry, but what? Even a character like Seth is cooler than this fucking dude. How can you have a game like this without a real and true villain? M. Bison is such a badass enemy by comparison, and for 6 we get fucking JP? What more is there to say here? JP as the antagonist for the game is just a fucking joke. They did make him tough as hell and gave him some pretty cheap moves, but I find him totally and completely lackluster. I would have rathered M. Bison or Gil or Goken. Anyone else really would do. I could come up with a better final boss in my sleep. Again, the music is hit and miss for me. There are a lot of catchy tunes throughout the game, and the character selection music is apparently so well done that it prompted my girl to outright ask me if I was playing my own music when it came on. I was like, nah babe, this is actually the in-game music. She was impressed by it at least. Where the game really blows my mind is the story mode overworld music. Most of it is god awful. Guys, seriously, listen to this. You can't tell me this was a good idea to put this wonky garbage in the game. It's fucking awful, and I can't stand listening to it. What were they thinking? I hate it. A few more things. Those are the main issues I have with the game. The rest are just mild complaints that don't really need their own categories, so I'll just fire them off one by one. As good as the combat system is, with a fair number of combos, a little bit of air juggling, and good use of the drive parry system, the fighting mechanics still feel a little shallow. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but the combat still seems a smidge simplistic, and it rewards the player with the fastest reaction time. The number of costumes in the game is bare bones minimum to start. I mean, look at this shit. Zangief gets only 2 color choices to start the game, and unlocking classic outfits is a massive chore, as you either have to straight up buy them or choose a master in story mode and max out their training regimens. It seems like most things are done via the World Tour character creation mode. The graphics are pretty good. I do like them, but it's a bit too real for my taste. I actually really enjoy the graphics in Street Fighter V, and I might be totally alone here, but I prefer that aesthetic. Other simple gripes like Cammy's cartwheel and Chun-Li's air grab slam are not present in the game, which I guess is fine because it gives you a reason to play the previous versions. Supposedly, you're also supposed to be able to use both a controller and fight stick at the same time, but doing so requires you to assign the fight pad to a second profile or some shit. I still haven't figured it out, and for the most part, I'm stuck using my controller for everything. Then there's this shit, where after you down an opponent, you are literally standing on them awkwardly, which just looks so weird. But I have seen this in a lot of fighting games, so I guess it's just a common problem that most developers can't seem to get right. The story mode Create Your Own Character was a bold move, and I was super hyped to put my own damn self in the game. But it's just so boring. I really am having a hard time giving a shit about moving forward in it. And I don't know if I have to learn more moves from my character or whatever, but so far I can't even utilize all the buttons on my controller for my character. Final thoughts. After all these years, and being the third more modern game in the SF franchise, did Street Fighter VI deliver? I would say the answer is a resounding yes. The changes made to the combat system, with the inclusion of the drive gauge parry system, the Create Your Own Character story mode, and Battle Lounge are all solid features. The colorful, more realistic graphics, sweet soundtrack, and deep training guides are all very well executed. There's other things I didn't even touch on, such as the ability to play retro games in the lounge that rotate from week to week and month to month. Currently, at time of recording, Street Fighter II is available, and a couple other games that I've never heard of. But you will also find other classics here, such as Street Fighter Alpha. But is Street Fighter VI the best of all the Street Fighter games? See, now, that's a tough one for me to answer at this stage of the game. I would say out of all the different combat systems, that this game probably has the best and most sophisticated of the bunch. But since making this video, and having to put more time into replaying SF4 Ultra, I'm starting to see why my friend likes it so much. There are a ton of features that the game has now, and we already know I'm a big fan of 5. 4 and 5 have evolved into fairly large games with tons of different stages, characters to choose from, and different costumes to select. They all honestly stand on their own merit, and it's just a matter of personal preference and how much of a Street Fighter fan you really are. Until 6 gets its full roster and costume selection, I would say it really can't be considered the best of all of them for all aspects, but it has the potential to be. We'll have to see what other clever updates Capcom has in store for us. Every single one of the Street Fighter games offers up something different to enjoy. It's just a shame we didn't get more characters to play in its initial release, and that these developers lean so very hard on these yearly Ultimate Passes and Character Passes. But it is what it is. Even though I may have listed more cons than pros in this review, overall, the new Street Fighter game is pretty fucking great, and it's pulled me back into playing a fighting game regularly to become the best possible fighter I can be. It's been a long time since I've been this invested in the genre. I've missed the competitive action. Fighting games offer up the best in terms of 1 vs 1 video game competition, and it's why I love games like this so very much. So with all that out of the way, it's time to give it a final score and see where it lands on the DDG Tower of Fighting Games tier list. Let's finish the fight. Alrighty guys, wow, we are at the end of the video now. This was a long one, a lot longer than I initially anticipated it being. It just kind of evolved into this longer type deal. We're now at the portion of the video where I kind of give my off-the-cuff remarks on the game and go through the breakdown of the review system I've kind of devised, which is a bit of an older system, but it's what I like to use now to kind of go through all the important key elements of a game and kind of score them and then get like a breakdown score and whatnot. But before I do, just for any regular viewers of DDG, any fans of the channel who may wonder why it takes me so long to get videos out, I just want to kind of put things in perspective for you as to why it takes so long. You know, initially Street Fighter VI came out on June 2nd, and we are now at time of recording at July 8th. And within a week's time of the game coming out, that's when I decided I kind of wanted to do a review on the game. That's when I made up my mind that I'm going to do this. And that's when I started the project. Well, the way I do things, just the nature of things in my life, is taking me this much time just to get to this phase of things. It's just the way it is for me. Like, I have to work on these videos in drips and drabs throughout the week and during the work week and stuff. I only get one dedicated weekend every 2 weeks to working on content, so this is the best that I can do. We are well past the 1 month point. I wanted to get the video out while the game was still super relevant, but this is just how it is. This is just the way it's going to be for me, unfortunately. But anyway, let's get into the key elements of the game and give the game a review score, and then put it on the DDG Tower of Games tier list. Alright, so this is the review score system I've got for Street Fighter 6 for all the games I'm going to do. Again, we know this is a bit of an outdated system. I talked about that last time, but this is what I like to use. I'm kind of trying to bring it back. So we're going to go through all the key elements of the game here, and I'll explain why I gave them the scores that I've given them. So graphics, I gave it 10 points, beautiful. Now, my opinion on the game has changed and evolved as I've done the review for this video, as I've made this video. You know, initially, like my first draft, the script was one thing, and then it changed because so much time has gone by. My opinion of the game has kind of changed. So, you know, I did talk about how I kind of preferred the graphics of Street Fighter V, and I think I may still prefer those graphics, but there is no doubt that Street Fighter 6 looks great. The graphics, very impressive. The game is beautiful, and there's no doubt it gets 10 points. Solid 10 points there. Gameplay, I gave the gameplay very good 15 points because with the new combat system, you know, the new drive impact system, it's just really good. It may be the best version of Street Fighter, the best iteration of Street Fighter game as far as the mechanics go that we've ever had. So absolutely awesome gameplay, very good, solid 15 points. Audio, this is another area of the game where my opinion has kind of changed, where when I first played the game, the way I felt about the game was like, this isn't a great soundtrack, but the more I kind of digged into it, the more I examined the soundtrack and listened to all the songs and saw the variety of songs that we have and the complexity to them, it no doubt is a good soundtrack. It gets a very good there, 10 points. Not quite an eargasm, not the best soundtrack I've ever heard in my whole life, but a strong soundtrack to be sure. These next three areas, we don't score them. They're just like for your information type deal. So audience, I think you can go with teens on this one. Difficulty, certainly easy to learn and hard to master, even for a veteran like myself of these games. I've been playing these games my whole life, since I was a kid. I'm an adult now, in my 40s. You know, with the new modern controls and the dynamic controls that you could just kind of pick it up and play it, you know, anybody should be able to start playing this game right away. But in order to get really good at the game and compete at the high level, you got to play this game every day. There's no doubt you got to play the game every day. You got to learn the combos. You got to learn the system well. So it's easy to learn, but hard to master for sure. Kind of like Call of Duty, you got the same score there. Grind isn't necessary to progress. It made sense to give it that, but you know, you could grind this game for costumes and colors, and you know, you can unlock the whole soundtrack, and there's different cinematics, and you know, you got artwork and stuff. So if you really want to, you could, but you don't have to. It makes sense to give it that. Story, it gets good 8 points. You know, I kind of want this new I wanted this new Street Fighter game to focus more on giving us cinematics and delving more into, you know, the characters we know and love, like Ryu and Ken, and really going more into their stories. But with Street Fighter 6, it's more about it being your story, you know, your character, your created character's story. So it definitely gets a good 8 point there. But, you know, the story, the create your own character, is kind of boring. At least I've been finding it boring, but the introduction of the create your own character thing is pretty awesome, and you know, for that reason and for what it is, and that you can put yourself in the game, and you know, it's all about your story. It definitely gets 8 points for that. Game time to infinity and beyond. I'm going to be playing the shit out of this one. Price, absolutely worth the price at 8 points there. And bugs, with this one I went minor bugs, because I'm sure there are some, but I have not experienced any. So it gets a strong 8 points there, which gives us a breakdown score of all those things as a 74%, and then I give my overall gut reaction. Just how I feel, just gut reaction on this game. And it's not perfect. There are some areas, like we talked about, that I don't love. So, you know, it's a great game, no doubt, but it gets an 85% there. So that gives us a 79.5% final score. Alright, so here we are on the DDG Tower of Games tier list. As we know, this is the first one. I haven't done a proper fighting game review on any fighting game, except for this one, so I kind of had to fill in the other spots. In order to make Tier Maker work, you got to have at least 5 games listed. So it's the first one. It's the first one up there. I guess a final score of 79.5% for Street Fighter 6, which I feel pretty good about. These next games, I might review Tekken 8. I really haven't felt compelled to play that game, even though I'm a big Tekken fan. I'm sure I will. And it's kind of interesting that Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 came out around the same time. It's kind of cool, actually, that they both did, being as that they are the two big heavy hitters in the fighting game genre. Mortal Kombat, that's just a stock image for like Mortal Kombat 12. I think that's coming out, but I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy, and I don't think I'll probably ever play that. And then maybe at some point I'll go back and review Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7, because well, Street Fighter 5 I enjoy quite a lot, but Tekken 7 I've put a lot of time into that. So it's one of the best Tekken games ever. It's one of the best fighting games ever. Actually, I had written up this whole script for why Tekken 7 may go down in history as one of the best fighting games ever made, but I never actually went through with that video. But there's a lot about Tekken 7 that's great. So this is it. This is the tier list for right now to get things going for the fighting games. And we will see if I do another one anytime soon. And if I do, it would likely be Tekken 8 would make the most sense. So that's it for the tier list. And so that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope that somebody got something out of this and that you enjoyed this video, and that maybe that there's somebody out there that hasn't played this game yet that saw this review and said, you know what, the game looks really good. I really want to get it. That's the point of these videos, for you to see kind of what I see and to be kind of tempted into playing it or downloading it, or just give you, like, if you're never going to play it, like, this is what it is. Like, this is what Street Fighter 6 is, and kind of compare them to the others that came before them. So this one took a lot out of me. I've been working really hard on this video. It's good to move on to the next one. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you got something out of it. If you liked the video, please hit that like button, subscribe to DDG, turn that bell on so that you're notified when I drop more videos, and leave some comments if you feel like saying anything, if there's anything that stood out to you or you have any questions or whatever. You know, I'll engage with you. But again, liking the video really helps. Sharing the video would be even better. And I do the best I can with these. I try to improve every time I do them, and I hope you enjoyed it. So that will do it for this one. We will be back soon with more videos, more games to play on Double Dragon Gaming. Peace out, guys.